Hello, thank you for coming back to my kitchen. You are very welcome as always. Today I have been baking again, yay! I have been making, and I can't wait to get into these. They look so delicious and I've had to wait for them to cool down too. So I've been making Maids of Honor. Let me show you the big dish first. Can you see those? So they're little tartlets, little pastry cases with a little bit of jam in. Which is the best one to show you, probably this one. I've cut one in half so you can see. A little bit of jam in and a little bit of sponge on top and just covered in icing sugar. Maids of Honor are an old English recipe that apparently goes back as far as Henry VIII. Let's just tuck into one. Delicious. Here's how I made them. The first thing we need to do is make the pastry. So I'm going to put a pinch of salt into the flour, and that's 6 ounces or 175 grams of flour. And I'm going to sieve it in the bowl. Next, I'm going to add 3 ounces or 75 grams of cold butter. Just give this a chop into as small pieces as you can, really. Next, we're going to go in with our fingers and rub the butter into the flour. We just keep rubbing it in until it resembles fine breadcrumbs. Of course, if you prefer, you can do this in a mixer or a food processor, but I prefer to do it with my fingers. Once that's all incorporated, we make a little well in the middle and pour in some cold water. This has to be cold water. And just give it a stir with a knife until it clumps. Now, how much water you use will depend on the temperature of your butter, the moisture in the air, all sorts of things, and the temperature of your water, of course. So I can't give you an exact amount, really. It's more that we're looking for a consistency than an amount of water. And the consistency is nearly there. I think that is done, actually. So these big clumps is what we're looking for. I'll go in with my hand, put my sleeve up a bit. There, that's coming together. If it doesn't come together at this stage, or it takes too long to come together, add just a tinsy-wincy bit of water, but this is fine, because as you put your hand in, the warmth of your hand is going to bring it together as the warmth melts the butter slightly. There. So here I have a little tart tin and I just need to butter it. Next we're going to roll out the pastry. So I'm going to flour my board. Dip the pastry out. Flour the top and a rolling pin. So this is a 7 centimetre cutter. I'm just going to cut out the bases for the tarts and pop them in the tin. Oh, look at that, we're going to get the whole tin done. That's good, out of one roll in. So this pastry that's left, we just put the pieces, we don't scrunch it all together, just put the pieces on top of one another, and that will be good for making more once this lot have cooked. Now we need to put the jam in. Today I'm using strawberry jam. Traditionally you would use raspberry jam, but we don't want too much. These aren't jam tarts, we don't want them overflowing. Remember, we need to put the cake mixture on top. So just a little bit. Of course, in the oven, the jam will bubble up a little more, so probably a little less than you think, which is also the case for jam tarts. Otherwise, it pours over. So once they're filled, we need to set those aside somewhere cool while we make the cake mixture for the top. So we're now going to make the cake part of the tart. I've put my oven on 190 degrees Celsius because I have a fan oven. That's 200 if you haven't got a fan oven, or, and I'll just check that, 400 Fahrenheit. Next, we put 2 ounces or 50 grams of room temperature butter in the bowl and just give that a whiz up. Next, we're going to gradually add 2 ounces or 50 grams of caster sugar. Just give that a scraping down from the sides. In my bowl, I have just 1 egg and we'll whisk that up. And very gradually add that egg. Give it another scrape around the sides, and I'll give it another little whisk before I put the rest of the egg in. Next, I'm going to sieve in 2 ounces or 50 grams of self-raising flour. And I'll just fold that in carefully. Get right down to the bottom of the bowl to make sure you've got no flour left down there. That's it, that's done. So now all we need to do is put the sponge over the jam. I would say about a teaspoon in each. But be careful because it's a little tricky. I'll probably come back and put a little bit more in each of these. Try and very tentatively spread. It doesn't have to be completely spread out, but if you can, spread it out very slightly. It will give the cake a bit of an idea where it's supposed to be, where it's supposed to spread into once it gets in the oven. I mean, it will spread and rise once it's in the oven anyway, but I do like to give it a little helping hand. That needs a tiny bit more. Of course, I want to save some of this for when I roll out the next pastry bits, the bits that we got left over. So they will now go into the oven for roughly 20 minutes, but do check after 15 minutes. My maids of honour have had 40 minutes, but they're looking done to me, so I'm going to check. Oh, look at those. They're looking lovely. They've risen well. So I'm now going to put them on a cooling tray. So I'll let them cool while I roll out the rest. I've probably got enough for about 3 more. All that remains to do now is give them a dusting with icing sugar. Perfect. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again next week.